Hello, I am going to do a short movement practice for knees. I also want to show a little anatomy because I think it's important. I'm a visual learner. Well, I'm a kinesthetic and visual audio learner, but it helps to for me to see. See if I can find what I was doing. Okay. So I'm going to share screen. Okay, and this is what I want to show predominantly is that one, all of our bodies are different. We don't look like this. These are either computer generated or illustration, but they're not what we look like. But what I want to show you is that when focusing on the knee, if you can see my little arrow, that many of the muscles of our hip and lower leg cross the knee joint, or I should say, we have, if you see this, the outer line of the leg, right? That there's your ITB or your tensor fascia lata to ITB crosses the hip and the knee, right? Crosses the hip all the way down to the knee. The front of the leg, we have one quad that crosses the hip, rectus femoris, that crosses the hip and the knee, right? All the quad tendons encapsulate the patella and then attach to the tibia, lower leg. So they cross the hip and the knee. This is the inner leg. So this is the pubic bone. I know it's weird because it's, again, not a accurate drawing. But there's muscles, many muscles that attach to the pubic and thigh that cross, right? So they cross the hip and the knee. You have hamstring, you have sartorius, you have a couple adductors that cross the knee. And then the back of the leg, you have the hamstrings, which attach to the sitting bone. You have your hamstrings that cross the knee. You also have your gastroc that cross the knee and the ankle joint. And you have a couple other, you have your, right, some of these, you can see the white, the tendinous material, some of these just, again, thread into each other, right? So the quad to the tibialis anterior becomes a continuous connection of tissue, which also then connects to the foot. So whatever's happening in our foot and on our hip is happening in our knee. And our knee is a much more simple joint than the hip or the ankle. Right, the hip is a ball and socket, but it has many directions and influences of movement. The foot is also a few joints, right, the ankle joint, but the foot has a quite diverse range of movement or potential, right? So part of building strength in the knee is building strength in the ankle and the foot. Just a view of a bent leg. This is the outer leg, but you can see this kind of glute, TFL, ITB band, and then its connection to the knee and then to the lower leg. One more. This is also just the bone, right? So femur bone, patella, and your tibia, the main, or the bigger, I shouldn't say main, bigger lower leg bone, and then the fibula, which is the smaller lateral bone. But again, you see the quads connecting to the patellar tendon, which hold the patellar tendon, and then attach to the lower leg. And all of these tendinous fibers that come together. So also just the directions of pull on the knee or influence. And then this is a close-up of the knee. This is a lateral image. Right, this is the patella with the tendons. Right, the patella sits in the tendon. This is your femur bone, tibia, fibula. So you have all these tendons that hold the joint in place, as well as the meniscus. This is a bent knee, straight knee. So if you're kneeling, then this would be the surface that you're kneeling on, the tendon pressing into the femur. or weight on that anterior tibia, tibial tuberosity. Okay, so let's do a little bit of movement. So we are going to start standing. And these are really just warm up. And so I'm actually going to lift and spread my toes. I'm actually going to do one at a time. Spread, squeeze, spread the toes, spread them wide. I'm noticing my little toe wants to stay connected to the toe next to it. And squeeze and spread and squeeze. Maybe a little roll at the ankle, other side, little squeeze. Spread. Spread toes wide as you can. Squeeze them all together, make a little foot fist, and then spread again. Stretch those toes long. Clearly, I have a more stable leg. And squeeze and spread and squeeze. Good, maybe a little circle. I am going to go through these rather, I don't want to say quickly, but I do want to do a shorter video. So bending, straightening, right? So looking to see that the feet are somewhat parallel. And just noticing. So we all have a different, we're all very different. So it's really listening to what's happening in your body. Are you noticing the calves? Are you noticing sound in the knees or pull anywhere? The shin, the thigh, and you want to make it smooth. Right? We're not looking to push. We're looking for intelligence in the tissue and the relationships. Good. And then I'm going to turn the toes out. So there's a little external rotation, and that's going to change quite a bit. Right? So there's a difference in the hip and the foot. The knee has to accommodate. Right? So what is happening in the inner leg, front, the outer, right? We saw those different directions of fibers. You can even look at your knees. Are your knees pulling? Is one knee pulling towards the big toe or pulling towards the little toe? I don't know if you can see in my body, but I definitely get kind of pulled to one side. The other side is much different in its range, its capacity. And then come back to center. Toes in, heels out. And this is really a warm-up and a way to, again, access different ways of moving. What does that mean? Meaning that we tend to move in patterns and habits. Again, notice what happens. Again, I feel pulled towards one side. I'm exaggerating it. So if I do the other side, it's much more challenging in my ankle and lower leg. Even tighter in my hip. Good. And back to center. One more time. So feet parallel. Again, I'm going to spread toes, bend, straighten, little lift of the heel. All 10 toe pads down, lower, bend, straighten, lift, lower, bend, straighten. Toes slightly out, same thing, bend, straighten, lift. Again, notice where you roll to. Do you roll out? Do you roll in? Can you find a middle path? Slow it down, take your time. Again, listening, ankles, knees. Good. And then let's turn the toes in. And if you start to feel sharpness or more intense sensation, then please back up a little bit. Make it a little smaller. Right? We want to find that place where we're, I want to say, more organizing than challenging. Again, that little lift. Notice where you can even look down sometimes just to see. Are you pulling in more on one side? And feet parallel. Maybe just a little walk around the room just to notice what's happening in your knee. Does it feel off track or anything feel different? Okay, let's come onto the floor. Again, if there's any asymmetry in the hip, it will show up also in the knee or how the knee is supported. All right, block. Bending knees. I'm just going to take block middle height between the knees and squeeze. Not a big squeeze, more of a hug. Light squeeze. Just enough to organize, to find the initiation, right side, left side. And release. Let everything relax. I'm just going to switch my camera. Okay. Good. And again, before I even squeeze, the awareness of the block. Good. Squeezing slowly enough so I can feel right side, left side. Is one side initiating and then the other? Can I get both to go at the same time? I'm going to relax without dropping the block. I'm just going to relax that effort. Again, notice the difference. What is the initiation like? Is it slow on one side? Is it quick on one side? Is it hard to initiate on one side? And then relax. Good. I'm going to grab the block, bring it behind the thigh, hold the block with my palms and fingers, and press into the block with my thigh. Let's go ahead and straighten and bend. And let's start with a little flex to straighten and point to bend and flex and point. Flex and point. And then I'm going to turn the foot out, turn the knee out. So there's a slight external rotation in the leg. And I'm going to straighten and my legs off to the side a little bit and bend. And a little straighten. And bend. One more. Straighten. And bend. Good. I'm going to turn the toe and the knee in, right? So there's a slight external rotation, which we did before, and now I'm going to a slight internal rotation. So the knee crosses over to the other side, toes cross over, a little straighten, and bend, and straighten, and bend. And again, listening to the body. We're so often taught that exercise is really just about doing. And it really is about listening. Does it feel good? Is there a click? Is there a pull? Is there an awareness of, oh, wow, it's so much harder that way. So I'm just going neutral again, straight up the center. And now I'm going to squeeze that block with my calf. And if that's hard to do, you can squeeze with the heel to the back of the leg. You can even open up the block and squeeze. That's the easiest one for me. Again, my calves are quite chunky, so actually I'm going to sit with this. So again, find which one feels right, and then I'm just going to make a little circle. So I'm going to pull the knee towards my nose, and then around and out to the side, and around and away from my nose, and around and up to the other side. And again, I'm looking for smooth movement. So if my hip is really cranky, which there are days it's very cranky, this circle movement is going to be quite small. And what I'm more interested in is the squeeze of the block. A little bit of effort and the smoothness of the circle. And if you have the ability to squeeze, maybe 20%, 30%, right? Feel it out. Again, I'm looking more for organization and smooth and then strength. And then let's change direction. Nice and smooth. Notice what's happening in your jaw and your throat and your shoulders. Again, organization and ease over force. And then coming back to center, release the block, extend both legs out to the side. Good, bending knees. Let's do the other side. So block behind the left thigh. And I'm going to press into the block and I will flex the foot to straighten, point to bend, flex, and point, flex, and point. Last one, flex, and point. A little turnout. So if I turn the foot out, the knee is going to turn out to the side. It's not a lot. It'll change angle so you can see. So as I straighten, the foot just kicks out to the side a little bit. Good. You can flex and point. You can even do the opposite, point to straighten and flex to bend. One more. Again, looking. And you might need less turnout if you feel any kind of grip or pull or weirdness in the knee or hip, then switch it. Let's come back to center. I'm going to tip the foot and the knee in. Same thing. Move, straighten and bend. Again, maybe point to straighten, flex to bend, or flex the foot to straighten the leg and point to bend. Right? They might have totally different influence on the knee, on the tissues of the knee. This one is much harder for me on this side than the other side. And then straight up the middle, straight leg. Right, so what I noticed when I turned in is that there was much more pull on the connective tissue around, especially the outer knee. I've released the block, extend the legs. What did you notice? Okay. And then actually one more thing on the floor. So right ankle to left knee. I am going to bring the knee up and I'm going to try to pull the knee into the ankle and press the ankle into the knee. And then just keeping this isometric for a few more moments here. One more full inhale and exhale. And then let that right leg cross the left leg. Maybe just do a little tiny side to side toggle. And the knees are just a part of the bigger picture, really. And then again, left ankle, right knee, pulling the knee into the ankle, ankle into the knee. And if this is hard, you can always put your foot on a wall and just pull away from the wall, just a little bit. But this can be it's actually a really great ask from the hip flexors to engage, right? We spend a lot of time sitting and engaging in a different kind of way. One more breath. And then both feet to the floor, stretch the legs out. Let's just turn the toes towards each other and away from each other. Heavy legs. Spin knees, roll to the side, and come up to sit. Now we're going to come to the wall. And let's grab your block. And I am going to take my timer. I don't want to overdo. I don't want to underdo. Goodness, I need a cameraman. Try to get the cat to do it, but he's not really willing. Okay, so I don't need to come all the way down. I want to be able, again, to work towards it. So I'm going to start here. I am going to put the block between the legs. I'm not squeezing the block. It's really just a support. And then I'm going to hit start. So one thing I want to notice is, where am I on my feet? I'm noticing that I have one foot that wants to be in charge and the other foot is quite light. So I'm just going to play with stepping down in one foot, stepping down on the other foot. And I'm noticing what happens with my hips against the wall. The foot that I favor kind of tips my pelvis or pulls one side of the pelvis away from the wall. So I'm going to try to plant both feet same weight, and maybe just a little cat-cow or posterior tilt, right? Waist back to the wall, sitting bones slightly forward, a little bit of a tuck, and then rolling towards an anterior tilt. And I'm noticing one side of the pelvis is more set back against the wall than the other side. I'm just going to do a couple of these until I feel some sense of symmetry in the legs. Block is just helping me find symmetry. One more, and then maybe let the head come back to the wall, maybe shoulders settle back to the wall, ribs widen. Good, and then taking the block away from the wall, or taking the block out and coming up. Good, just take a little walk around. That was 1.5 minutes. If you need to work up to that, please do so. We'll do 2 more. And you get to decide, right? This again is really just about building strength in the legs, in the knees, little isometric. Okay. Actually, let's start with straight legs. Turning off the leg. What happens? So I'm just going to press down, toes down, and maybe even lift the heels up, pelvis against the wall. And lower the heels down, and now lift the toes up, balls of the foot up. See if I can spread the toes. Good, toes down, all toe pads down, ball of foot somewhat balanced, heels up. Good, and down. Let's turn the toes out, lift the heels, straight legs. Keep the toes turned out, heels slightly in, lift the toes, spread the toes. And down. Let's actually turn toes in, lift the heels. Again, legs straight, toes in, heels wide. And down, and then lifting the toes up, spread the toes. It's much harder to do. My toes are very confused. And down. Good, feet parallel. All right. One more. And then we'll do a variation. Again, I'm just checking in, right foot, left foot. Where's the weight? Good. Block is just keeping just my sense of center line, right side, left side. Right? You can even take the block out for a minute and just feel the difference. Do you tend to, again, favor one leg? Can you feel, maybe even pull one hip back towards the wall? and then the other hip back towards the wall. Can you feel the back of the pelvis? As you pull one hip back, the pelvis pubis is going to turn to one side, the back of the pelvis is going to turn to one side, and then feel that on the other side. And then when you come to your neutral, can you tell that your pelvis might be rotated? Good. Block. Let's take the arms out and up and out and down, out and up, out and down. Let's just do a little anterior, posterior, posterior, anterior. One more. And take the block out and come up. Take a little walk. Again, minute and a half. Just walking, noticing. I'm even going to take the block to the wall and put the heels up on the block. Just do one little bend and straighten. Notice how that felt. Take the arms forward, bend, and again, looking for organization and ease, right? We tend to think we have to push it into the place where we're feeling something. I want you to feel organized, balanced, because when we hit the place where we feel balanced, the body's usually a little more willing to go further. Good, and step out. Okay, one more set. We're going to do a shorter set. Actually, we don't need the block, but we are going to do right ankle, left thigh, shorter, and do each side. Okay, so right ankle, left thigh, again, just a little bit of downward press, doesn't have to be a lot. Very different sense of pelvis, but can you still feel maybe one hip back, other hip back? Can you feel the center of the pelvis, that sacral bone? And again, this downward press. Little point and flex, point and flex, spreading toes. Good. We're actually almost 2 more breaths. Inhale and exhale. Maybe the head can come back. And foot down and slide up the wall. Good. And then we'll do the other side. I'm just going to go right into it. So left ankle, right thigh. Again, you could be up here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. You don't want to have your hips all the way down. You don't want to be gripping your jaw and holding your breath and fighting. Right, find a place where you feel organized, where you feel balanced. A little press down on the left thigh. I'm noticing that this side just feels really different. I'm used to grounding the left leg and moving the right leg. So my body's very confused. Again, I'm just going to play with one hip back a little, other hip back a little bit, much less range of motion. Maybe a little posterior tilt, anterior tilt. Notice the knee, the foot, the weight on the big toe side of the standing foot or little toe side. Longer breath. Good, and we did it. Yay. Okay, so again, just a little walk around your space. Again, if there's a sharp pain and intense pain, you always want to adjust. One, because the body isn't going to want to do it again. And we set up an anticipation of fear and of pain in the body. Good. You should feel, again, just pleasantly, easily challenged. Let's come onto our backs, knees bent. Just feeling feet on the ground, hips on the ground, back and head on the ground. Extend legs. Let's take another couple of breaths here. Longer, slower breath. Longer, slower breath. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last breath on your own. Find a pacing and a rhythm. If you need a shorter count, please do it. Make it smooth, easy on the body. Slowly come back. Good. I would love to hear how this went for you.